Are ice baths and cold plunges the next massive biohack? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to share with you some cool tips about ice baths, how someone might use them, if they might use them, when, why, what, why not, all that sort of stuff. So ice baths are a popular method to use for recovery amongst athletes, but are they beneficial for improving your sports performance and body composition? In this short video, I'll explain the science behind ice baths, cold thermogenesis, how it might work, how it might affect muscle growth or fat loss, and also how it might impact things like inflammation, which can in turn create a better inflammatory response. So there's a thing at the moment where everyone going around thinks they're the next Wim Hof or David Goggins or someone jumping into a big, I don't know, truck of snow, whatever it is. It's always the new next thing. You know, what is the next best thing we can do? What is the most sensationalistic, most bizarre, most, I don't know, attention-seeking, attention-grabbing thing someone can do right now? Well, it seems to be the ice baths, the cold thermogenesis. Partly for good reason. It does do some stuff. Now, what it does is activate something called brown adipose tissue, which is brown fat. So what that does is it sort of increases the amount of metabolically active tissue in your body. So that's when you're doing these cold baths, this sort of thing. There are some caveats to this, though. Does it increase your metabolic rate? Yes. Can it increase your hunger when you increase your metabolic rate? Yes, it absolutely can. Now, there's lots of ins and outs in it. There's lots of science. I'm not going to go into the mumbo-jumbo stuff because no one here wants to hear about it. But what I will say is it can be a stress to the body. Doing something your body does not like too much, in the wrong exposure, the wrong amount, you know, your body doesn't like it. There's actually evidence to support that claim, and they made a study about muscle growth and how it is impacted by cold thermogenesis. What they found was it actually blunts muscle growth. So, well, it's actually specifically muscle protein synthesis. So they looked at people that did and did not use cold thermogenesis after a workout, and they found it basically blunted the inflammatory response. Now, anyone that knows anything about inflammation will know that you need inflammation to cause an adaptive response. So think, you know, your cells are shrinking, you know, your body's contracting upon itself. That's not inflammatory. The body's trying to expose the peripheral tissues of your muscular system, your circulatory system, to new blood cells, to new stem cells, to new stuff, new vitamins, minerals, and all the goodness, all the nutrients that your body needs to absolutely thrive and build new tissue. Now, when we commit ourselves to these kind of stresses, we have to understand it is hormesis. So we do, for the most part, adapt to it. But what I will say is, if you try to push it too hard, you'll end up basically going backwards. And I've seen quite a few people going backwards doing it recently. So they've done all the cold baths, you know, they've bought the big ice bucket thing that you stand in, the freezers. And they find, oh, you know, I feel a bit more energetic. Yeah, my dopamine's gone up, or my mood's gone up, my energy, all this sort of stuff. You know, does it do that? Yeah, short term. The problem is you have to up the ante. So if you don't increase the exposure, you won't continue to adapt. Now, I actually experienced this myself. I'm keen to know in the comments below if anyone else did this sort of thing in a somewhat similar way to what I did. Now, I'm someone that walks around pretty much like this all day, vest, shorts, maybe a t-shirt sometimes when it's snowing outside. And I'm quite fine doing that. I'm very cold adapted. So for me to get an increased adaptive response and feel much better from it, I literally would have to stand in a block of ice. I don't want to do that because it's not feasible. I don't have the space in my house or the energy to actually go and do it. There's other biohacks which I feel are more important. So for me, the most important thing I do right now is the carnivorous diet. So animal foods only. No fruit, no honey, not animal food. Honey comes from nectar, which is from a plant. But you get the picture. So low inflammatory diet, maximize nutrient density, reduce intestinal permeability. Best biohack for sure. Now, the next thing, probably for me, is light exposure. Now, there is some interplay between light exposure and cold thermogenesis. It's quite interesting stuff, and I won't pretend to be an absolute world expert on it, but I'd probably redirect you to a video I made with Dr. Sarah Pugh, which is on my channel, which is something like Quantum Bodybuilding 101. But I'll put the link above so you guys can go and watch this after the video. Anyway, so getting back to the point, what I want to basically explain is, can you do an ice bath long term? Yes. Can you adapt from it long term? No. There'll become a point where you'll end up sitting in, I don't know, nitric oxide or wherever it is, where you basically freeze to death in order to continue to get the response. So I'd say if you're going to use it intermittently. And if you are going to use it at all for the brown adipose tissue increasing effects, the improved metabolic rate, the better cold adaptive response, I'd look at doing it as far away from workouts as humanly possible. So you're not doing it a couple of hours after the gym. You're doing it on a rest day when you've had probably another rest day either side of that. They say, for example, you train Monday, Thursday, Saturday. Maybe do it, on a Sunday or something. Just don't do it immediately after a workout. Give it a good day or something. Now, the muscle protein synthesis rates seem to increase up to around about the hour of maybe 24 to 36 hours. So by blunting this response, you impact recovery. So when you think you're the next hot shot that's going to get all these benefits, and you think, I'm doing my rucking, I'm doing my cold baths, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, doing special breathing and all this stuff, and I think I'm absolutely biohacking the life out of myself, you're probably sending yourself backwards, and you're actually making a negative impact on your recovery. So therefore, that will translate, believe it or not, to less muscle growth. So you have to have your objectives very clearly lined out. So for me, a bodybuilder who cycles in the cold to the gym, who sleeps with the window open, who doesn't really use a duvet, who doesn't wear blankets and all this sort of stuff, I don't need to do it. There's no necessity for me to do it. There's no adaptive response that I think I'd benefit from. Now, going back to the point about, the fat loss. Now, do you burn more energy, or do you oxidize more energy? Do you require more energy in a state when you're cold? Yes, Arctic explorers will have to pack in loads of food to sustain themselves because of the cold. The cold requires more energy for your body to keep warm. Makes sense. Problem is, if you do this too much, too often, the wrong exposure, the wrong frequency, this will lower your metabolic rate. And it will do this. And how will it do this? It will decrease the carbon dioxide that you expel. It will slow down your heart rate. It will reduce every enzymatic process in your body as your body desperately tries to reduce its energy expenditure. Now, I'm not talking about calories here. I'm talking about energy expenditure. So the outside part of the equation, not the inside bit, which a lot of people seem to get wrong. Now, what I'm going to say is there's pros and cons to this. Some people can do it and seem to get a benefit. All I'm saying is for bodybuilding purposes, don't do it. Or if you do happen to do it, you do it well away from your workouts where it's not going to blunt or absolutely diminish your inflammatory response, which is absolutely indicated to be useful for growing new muscle tissue. Now, how often can you do it? You can do it every day. You could also not do it every day. The more you do it, the quicker the adaptation process will come. So I'd say use it sparingly, get the result, milk it for all it's worth, then stop. You don't need to do this sort of thing all the time. That's pretty much my take on it. I know I'm going to get a lot of troll comments below saying, oh, you know what you're talking about. I did it and I got really muscular. Great. Good for you. I don't care. But the science doesn't sort of seem to depict that it's useful for muscle growth. So from a bodybuilding standpoint, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Or if you do, limit exposure. If you like this video, click like, leave a comment below, and let me know, what do you do in terms of cold exposure, if any? Thanks very much and hit subscribe. Cheers.
Build muscle and lose fat on the carnivore diet.